This coffee's good, but it needs something different. Something new. Something interesting. Something that will make you go, wow! But what could it be? I know. I mean, who really doesn't love apple pie? Coffee Talk Episode 2, Hibiscus and Butterfly, is a visual novel that released on April 20th, 2023, on the Nintendo Switch and the PC, specifically Steam. It cost $14.99 and is a continuation of the relaxing yet thought-provoking story about a coffee shop in Seattle and a variety of characters and social issues surrounding it. The game was played on the Nintendo Switch version for this review, completing the story and extras, but not with 100% completion. But before I begin, technically this key was obtained from woovit for content creation purposes. Please note, before I received the key, I had paid for the Steam version of the game and haven't refunded it. With all that said, that won't change my opinion of the game in the end, but you should know that because of FTC guidelines, as well as the whole morals thing, you know? Coffee Talk Episode 2 takes place in an alternate version of Seattle, where there's a mixture of humans and fantasy races taking part of everyday life. You play as a self-named barista who serves the needed drinks during the evening and overnight hours to a variety of characters, ranging from a video game developing orc to an equivalent Amazon delivery driving banshee. You are here to listen to their stories, but can influence them based on giving them the right or wrong drink over a series of 2 weeks, as new and recurring characters will come back over the coming days. Now, from the get-go, these stories are a continuation of the first game's characters for the most part, and I'm going to be pointed in this case and say that you need to play the first game to get the full benefit of these characters and their story arcs. Luckily for you, I also reviewed the first game and gave it an 84 out of 100, so it's definitely one you should pick up. Now, is it 100% necessary to enjoy this game? No, but it's definitely helpful in giving a lot of context to past events that will make certain plot points much more effective in its execution. So, what exactly is the story about? Well, that's the thing. It's a series of interconnected stories hitting a variety of topics. They all mirror modern-day issues that are blended into the fantasy races. For example, the immigration of extraterrestrial aliens into Seattle, and the organizations fighting and defending those immigrants, which obviously mirrors the concerns of immigration in the modern-day USA. But beyond that, the game talks about everything from influencer culture, urban legends, prejudice, and even family matters, and it's relatable to many different parts of the world in some way or another. Which is actually somewhat the point. Even though these stories may hit a variety of people and topics, they are still familiar to the everyday person in the way they are executed. For example, Lucas the influencer may not be directly relatable on the surface, being a successful person in the equivalent YouTube space and making a living from it. But his sub-story involving looking at what he's working on and whether it's truly what he wants to make, it's something that most anybody with a job has probably come across at some point in their career, myself included. The doubts he has from letting down his team from possibly going into a new direction is something 90% of people would relate to. And showing the effect of having a good old conversation can make a person change their outlook on what they're looking at like Lucas does is something that many games try to do, but few are able to do like Coffee Talk is able to do, because, well, the realism here is tangible. Hell, I have to admit, one of the topics hit hard for me, which is why it took me a little bit more time than I originally planned for this review. See, the lovers from the first game, Lua and Bailey, are back and are now planning a wedding after the first game, but they're running into problems. Neither of them have any idea what they specifically want, and have been throwing ideas out left and right. But there's so many questions. What amount should they spend? What wedding dress? Where? Big or small wedding? How much should each person contribute? Those kind of questions. Needless to say, if you've been following me over the last year, considering I proposed last year to my fiancée and we're going through that process right now, I felt called out. And it started making me step back in our process and go, well, wait, what exactly do each of us actually want? The pointedness of the writing being clear that each person needs to focus on themselves and what they truly want and need to stop overly worrying from outside forces. It's something that I'm still right now trying to apply to our own process, and quite frankly, it's made me think a lot, which this kind of game, yeah, that's exactly what you want. Characters are easily distinguishable from one to another thanks to well-defined and consistent personalities that have complexity to them while still being accessible. Now granted, one of the things that I would have liked to have seen was some change in their appearance from day to day, a different shirt or style on them to showcase the day-to-day elements. But I do like almost every character's look here, and how it helps to characterize each individual. The touch of adding lots of small band-aids on Gala, the werewolf, brings a humanity to him that shows his commitment to the little details in that simple visual, while still making sense to his character. You turn into a werewolf, you're gonna get a lot of scratches on you. But for others, giving some of them some styles could have helped even characterize other characters more, like how Hyde has fallen out of love with his modeling career. It would have come across strongly that he wouldn't change his look on a day-to-day basis while everyone else is changing around him. With that said, one of the things that I do think I wish the game had done more of was balance the overall character roster and plot. There were a couple of characters that I wanted to see more of after the game was over, and felt like they deserved a little bit more to their character arcs, even if it meant adding another subplot or two. Myrtle and Aqua are the prime examples. I felt like adding another day or two and exploring the strain on their expertise and careers versus their personal friendship would have gone a long way. Sure, they may interact with some other characters once or twice, but you could have removed them from the game and it really wouldn't have made a difference in the overall plot, which is a shame. I really liked their story. Rachel also comes to mind as well. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not that the game is lacking content from a writing perspective. Hell, upping the price and giving more content would have been fully fine with me in here. It's not like the new characters who get the limelight here are necessarily bad. I like Lucas and Ryona, and it's a tribute to the writing that I wanted to see more of all the characters and not less of others. However, let's change gears a slight bit and actually discuss the gameplay mechanics for a second. Yes, there is gameplay mechanics. While every day has several stories, during the day each character will have a lead up to a drink order, which usually revolves around wanting a feeling from the drink, whether it be warmth, calmness, or just straight old energy to get through a shift. When you are asked for a drink, you must combine a base drink element along with a primary and secondary ingredient based on the description of the drink given to you. Sometimes it's pretty obvious when the game literally says, "I want an espresso." You can at certain times look in your recipe book to find the drink to make, but most of the time, you will have to make it based on the hints the game gives you. In most of the other cases, figuring out the drink is rather easy. It's just a matter of listening to what ingredients they want and in what order, so you know what should be the primary ingredient or the secondary ingredient. Yes, it does test some basic elements, but not much beyond that. Rarer though are the drinks where you have to use things like the sweetness or bitterness to determine what the drink is, and these are the ones that are a bit more fun to do, because it requires you to think a little more, or hell, Google it. Not for a guide, mind you, but maybe actually Google drinks like Russian tea and see what their ingredients are. That's where the gameplay is at its best, and frankly in the story, I wanted more of those cases. They seem to be lacking compared to the original game, or what I remember of the original game, and I think I know why, and I'll lead into it a little more why later. Now, of course, the drink you may make may not be what you envisioned at first, but don't worry, you do get 5 drinks to dump a day to try again, with each day having about 3 drinks on average to make. You're not always going to get it right, and maybe you don't want to, because again, your drinks can affect the path of characters during the game, and certain characters won't even show up if you go down specific paths. The game is designed to be replayable in that sense, with the fast forward button to get through text, but I do wish that button would just skip to the choice at times or have that option. It does still play animations during that time, and that's a little bit annoying when you just want to try again. I'm going to be frank here. This is where the game was the most disappointing for me, but not that the mechanic was bad, especially if you're new to this genre and new to games like this or Valhalla. It's just that I wanted more of an evolution from it from the original game. The game added a couple more tea bases to add some variety, but part of me wonders if they wanted to keep things simple and they started running out of drinks to use in terms of the ingredients they had. There are very specific drinks here that don't have a real-world counterpart, or at least a couple that I know of, and that clever nature in the original game in terms of figuring things out and using the real world falls off a bit because of that. Like, look, I'm not going to sit here and argue that this tea I'm serving isn't clever and beautiful and isn't something that I could see at a tea shop that was a specialty shop. But I'm having trouble understanding how a regular player would have gotten blueberry pie out of these ingredients and explanation. And yes, that's what the intro of this video was referring to. Speaking of which, I wonder what Vlad is up to now. Now, here's one other thing that I don't know if I can fully hold over the game, because maybe I just didn't find the paths in question. But in the elements that I did try in terms of the drink mixing, it felt like the game had one right answer for the exact drink that they wanted, one semi-correct answer, or two, that means the answer is close to the drink they want, but not exactly, and then wrong answers, and nothing else. Which, you may say, what exactly are you expecting, Dragnix? An answer is right or wrong in this case, right? Well, maybe in terms of giving a customer what they want, but that's not always what they need. I was hoping that I could find more alternate paths with the right drink that would have pushed a customer to a completely new path. Like, let me use Georgie as an example. He in the game is a cop who's investigating a series of flat tires and a general mystery around a certain area of town. Now, he goes through a series of events that makes him consider a bunch of possibilities, and at times, he seems like he's not able to gather his thoughts. I was hoping that maybe instead of giving him an espresso at times that may push his brain into overdrive, then maybe I give him a drink that's supposed to help him find clarity and peace of mind for him to focus. Sure, he may fall asleep, and that's a possibility and a problem, but the fact is, maybe it is the drink that he needed rather than wanted. But that didn't end up being the case in the game, and when I tried a bunch of other possible paths in my mind, I was more disappointed more often than not. Now luckily, because I was a little late to the party when it came to this review, I did do a little research on the paths, so I did get to take a look at the fact that there are paths in terms of a bad ending, which I admit is somewhat what I wanted when it came to the paths, but a little bit more basic than I hoped. Going through and trying to purposely mess up orders is goofy, and I suppose it does the job in terms of rewarding certain story elements, so there's at least that. I do hope there's a Coffee Talk episode 3, and they really work off the idea of feelings and more interconnected paths, however. Now, presentation-wise, I'm still impressed with the small details that the game does get right. Things like the lightning flashing in the background always set the mood to really just appreciate the story here, and seeing the steam come off the coffee that you serve never got old, and especially was well done in power outage sections. Characters' expressions feel like they give life to the character portraits, and really do well in expressing a character's inner thoughts, especially with the use of facial features. It really does capture a chill vibe while still being interesting to look at, which sometimes can be really hard to do. As for sound design, it's very complementary to the gameplay. Hearing the pour of the coffee or the crackling of thunder, but it doesn't overpower the music nor the visuals, which here, for the vibe that this game is going for, is exactly what the game needed. Nothing too crazy, so take a listen and hear what I'm talking about. Where the game shines presentation-wise is the music. The music not only sets the mood for the entire game in terms of a Seattle coffee shop, but hell, I've been listening to it at work to help set the mood for my own thoughts. Is it action-packed? No. Is it something busting out with vocals? No. Is it the exact music that you'd want for a game like this? Absolutely. Just take a listen and you'll hear what I'm talking about. Now, with what I said about the game so far, you may expect me to give the game a similar score to the original game when it comes to the overall experience. And even though I have legit complaints about the evolution of the game, I still love the story, but I want to be frank here before I give that score. I'm generally thankful that the game has come out in any sort of way. If you don't know the history of the original game, one of the original writers of the game, Mohammed Fahmy, credited as the creator and writer of the original visual novel, unfortunately died in early 2022. Given the talent of his writing and what was a rising star in the industry at the time, it wouldn't have been unheard of seeing this game maybe not able to come out after something that tragic happening. The fact that this game got released with what had to be a hard struggle around it is a testament to the studio and the people behind it. I can see a game like this with the heart and soul of that game unfortunately passing away. Trying to pick up the pieces would be incredibly difficult. And I can't give credit enough to the people involved in the credits, in everyone involved, from the PR to the writers to everyone involved. Yes, did I like Coffee Talk Episode 2 as much as Coffee Talk 1? Mostly. Did I want more? Yeah. But is it worth playing? Yeah, because the story, the emotions, and the feelings are here like that first game. If this game doesn't make you feel, well, I'm gonna ask if you're an AI, which unfortunately nowadays is actually a legitimate question on the internet. Regardless, that's why I give this game an 86 out of 100. It's definitely worth a buy, but if you're hurting for cash, maybe you can wait for a sale. But that doesn't take into account my enhancer system, which takes the more subjective elements of games and tries to match a game to you. If you fall into one of the following categories, add or subtract that score to the main score. If the first digit of your score changes, refer to this chart to see if the game lies in the buyability rating for you. I will admit my enhancer system for this one is a little bit interesting because of the fact that I can see this being really useful for certain people and certain types of personalities, but I didn't necessarily know how to put that in terms of an enhancer system. It's just the way you think at times and how you connect to things, and that can be hard to put into words at times. So if this feels a little bit off, I understand. Anyway, the next video coming up in terms of review is my Criticism Carousel. Yes, that's the name of the series. Basically, it's the games that I streamed in March and April that I didn't have a chance to fully review, but I think that is worth your time. You can find the first video somewhere here. If you like this content, hit that like button, and thank you for still being here in terms of the full length of the video. And I would love to hear comments in the comment section below. Also, if you want more coverage of games that are coming out, go follow me on Twitch. I stream 2 to 3 new indie games a week, although I'm going to maybe hit some older games in terms of my backlog. Still indie games most likely, but I admit, looking at my backlog lately, I want to hit some games that I've played before that I've enjoyed and maybe get a little bit more out of them. You can only do so many new games where you're just like looking at your backlog and being like, oh god. Anyway, that's it for now, and as always, keep on gaming. One last note, tell me what you think of the Vlad skits. I just want to know, specifically. I may do that more often. I've wanted to introduce them for a little bit of time now, and this just seemed like the right time. Anyway, later.